Is it staff's assertion that we cannot do 6-month contracts at this time?
No, we're not saying we can't do a 6-month contract.
Okay, from
We
budget
can.
perspective.
We can do a 6-month contract. You know, I think the question from the EDC was asking for a year contract, but there is no prohibition on us doing a 6-month contract.
Okay, I know that from the perspective of budgeting on the part of the EDC, it would be more advantageous
Right.
for them to have certainty
Right.
for a full year term and not have to revisit this in May of next year.
Steve, I appreciate your line of questioning there. I believe that Councilman Fodovich was making a motion, though. I'm looking for a second, and if somebody wanted to grant him a second, we'd be able to have additional conversation.
Didn't know that was formalized as a motion, sorry.
What's that?
I didn't know there was a formal motion. My apologies.
I believe it was, I move.
I move that we authorize the mayor to renew the agreement for 6 months with Southwest Johnson County Economic Development Corporation. And you can write in there, I guess, for economic development services that can be extended up to 1 year, up to a 1-year renewal, or up to a 6-month renewal, however you want to.
Not hearing a second.
I'd like to move that we authorize the mayor to renew the agreement with Southwest Johnson County Economic Development Corporation for economic development services for 1 additional year ending December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Harrison, that we authorize the mayor to renew the agreement with Southwest Johnson County Economic Development Corporation for economic development services for 1 additional year ending December 31st, 2014. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you, Chip.
You too.
All right, new business item number 3. Consider approving ordinance number 2438, provide for an electric utility advisory board for the purpose of providing advice and guidance to the city council on the electric utility, and to further repeal ordinance 2296 and amend and repeal section 13-20-010 and 13-25-010 of the Gardner Municipal Code. Brian, good evening.
Good evening. During the October 7th work session, city staff received direction from the council on possible revisions to ordinance 2296. After the work session, we met with our legal counsel and presented him a copy of our presentation along with notes from that council work session. We asked that a ordinance either be modified or a new ordinance crafted. We've attached to this council action form a copy of ordinance 2438 that was crafted to create an electric utility advisory board. This ordinance does repeal ordinance 2296 and amends the Gardner Municipal Code. The city's legal counsel is here this evening and will answer any questions on this agenda item.
Okay. Brian, thank you. At this point, we're going to open the floor to public comments. I'm sure that everybody doesn't have a copy of their governing body rules of procedure under their seat. So I just want to remind everybody that those wishing to speak may do so. And there is supposed to be a 5-minute time allotment that shouldn't be ceded to other speakers. We've never really held hard and fast to that. But I would caution that if somebody's going to try and go with filibuster the item, that I might have to go for the gavel for the first time ever, and I don't want to have to do that. And the next thing that I would suggest that everybody remember when they're coming forward is that, you know, we're all members of the Gardner community, and we're all friends and neighbors here. At least I think so. With that being the case, we'll open the floor to public comments. If you'd like to make a comment, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and be heard.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Schultz, 936 Cottage Creek here in Gardner. In the interest of full disclosure, I also am the current chair of the Gardner Electric Utility Board.
Good evening, Eric.
Thank you. As you and I spoke this afternoon, Mr. Mayor, I did promise not to go cruising this evening, so I will try to make this short and sweet. I corresponded with each of you council members over the last week. I think you understand pretty clearly my position. And I will tell you, it is a position of a citizen of this community, not as the chair of the Electric Utility Board. Obviously, the Electric Utility Board and Gardner Energy are quite proud of the accomplishments of the utility over the last 5 years since it was moved out from under direct control of the City Council and moved under the Electric Utility Board. I sat right there in that chair where Heath Freeman is, Councilman Freeman this evening, back in 2008, when the votes and discussions were held related to keep or sell of the utility and the adoption of Ordinance 2296 that you're considering repealing this evening. The debates and discussions that led to the decision to keep the utility took several months, several presentations. The adoption of the ordinance, as I recall, took something on the order of 4 months. I bring that up only to show a distinction of what we're here discussing tonight. That happens to be the consideration of a new ordinance to replace that based upon a single public meeting that was frankly kind of one-sided and 2 weeks of work. And I'm quite hard-pressed to think that we can have addressed everything that needs to be addressed in that 2 weeks' time. A couple of other points that I would like to make, and then I will cede the floor to whoever else would like to speak. I've got a letter from August 18th, 2008, from the Gardner Area Chamber of Commerce to Mayor Lehman and the council members. I'm going to quote a paragraph from that letter. It states, "We believe that the opportunity for maintaining a successful municipal utility is available to the community. However, we are concerned that every decision has to be the right one, and major financial investments need to be made in order for that to occur. In our analysis, retaining the electric utility also requires the council to create an independent board to make the hard decisions that need to be made regarding the electric utility." End quote. And another quote that I would like to offer, this was fresh off the press just today from an esteemed member of our community. His quote, "If we are going to run the utility, it has to be done in a way that preserves the value of the asset. Can that be done with council? If you have people with the courage to do what's required instead of what's politically expedient," end quote. Many of the discussions about making this a purely advisory board were predicated and prefaced by the council members at the work session 2 weeks ago by stating that it was not your intent to overrule the recommendations and the advice of the advisory board, the EUB, or whatever it is to become. And I appreciate that. However, I know well, having sat in the seat that you're up there in now, that you cannot bind future councils. You simply cannot do it. So while you may have the best of intentions, of preserving the integrity and working and cooperating with